Hi, I'm Margie Holmes, psychologist, author, and educator. This week's topic is about something most societies would consider taboo: incest. I've received several questions and comments from you about what exactly constitutes incest. Does it have to be a blood relative? Does it have to be physical to be considered incest? Here's what you said. Lute Helen, incest need not be based on blood. If they are raised as siblings, an intimate relationship between them could be incest. Tommy says it's a sexual intercourse between family members of first to second degree. Benjamin Vallejo Jr. methinks what civil law defines as incest is fairly representative of what many people believe that incest is all about. To which Jeremy Bear replies, if you take civil law as the yardstick, you end up with multiple definitions of incest. In countries like Australia and the USA, definitions even change from state to state. Many definitions only cover intercourse between a man and a woman and not therefore any other form of sexual activity. The original prohibition was simply based on A, avoidance of birth defects, and B, protection of minors. With the advances in contraception and a whole slew of laws specifically protecting minors, it seems that incest laws have become archaic and redundant in many jurisdictions. Diana Saison, I think it should cover family-like relationships. Titos and titas with parental authority, real or taken for real, should not get involved with their friends' children. Alfie Melia, incest should be defined as it is without being mixed with or confused with other issues. To me, incest is simply a sexual encounter or relationship between relatives. The key words are sexual encounter and relatives. Therefore, sex and relative should be clearly defined. To me, sex is any physical act that involves lust. Kissing, fondling, oral stimulation, penile or digital penetration, etc. And relative is a parent, a child, a grandparent, an uncle, an aunt, a cousin, a nephew, a niece. That's it. But remember, an incestuous relationship does not necessarily or automatically involve pregnancy. Now, if there is coercion, the issue is now rape. If a person involved in the incestuous relationship is a minor, then the issue is child abuse. If the issue is morality, it becomes subjective, relative to the concept of what is moral or immoral to the observer. If the issue is legality, simply refer to the applicable laws. Personally, I don't mind incest as long as there is a truly mutual consent between the persons involved. Alfie Melia adds, if pregnancy is being considered, then that to me will make a difference because there is now the involvement of giving birth to a child with possibly congenital problems. Thank you, Alfie. Not only have you made many of the issues surrounding incest crystal clear, you have been able to do so rationally, without the hysteria that can sometimes accompany it. Admittedly, sometimes the hysteria, the disgust, the fear is perfectly understandable. Oftentimes, the seeming perpetrators are real perpetrators who pounce on trusting and defenseless family members. But sometimes the misunderstanding can come from how we look at incest. For example, Anonymous ventured, incest could be sexual attraction to family members. The mere fantasy of such can be considered incestuous. However, I beg to differ, because it can be a little tricky since, actually, we are not responsible for what we feel, but only for what we do. Can you imagine if we were to be responsible for anything we felt? Because these feelings come unbidden. What a terrible thing for a lot of people to consider themselves as, incest abusers or incestuous just because of that. Let me just give you a very quick example. Many fathers have told me that without their meaning to, while they have their children on their laps, female children or male sons, as they bounce them on their lap, because a lot of kids like that, sometimes they get erections and they berate themselves for being incestuous towards their kids, and that is simply not true. An erection not usually, is oftentimes a physical response. So how can you be guilty? How can you consider yourself or be accused of incest simply because your penis responded to the stimulation? This does not mean you are incestuous, okay? In answer to the above questions that we discussed earlier, my view as a clinical psychologist, which you have to bear in mind, other clinical psychologists may have a totally different view from what I am saying. Now, my view includes two things. Number one, the behavior need not involve a perpetrators. Sorry, it's just because this is a subject that is very, I don't know if the word is close to me, but that affects me because I have seen many people who have been really hurt by incest, both by having it done to them and both by being wrongly accused. Okay, anyway, so my view is you can be a perpetrator even if you do not physically touch someone. Okay, some examples are people peeping in the bathroom while a child or someone you are taking care of, a minor, knows that you are, while she's dressing or in the bathroom, letting the person know you are peeping, especially asking overtly intrusive questions such as, did he touch you when your family member comes home from a date, making lewd comments and suggestive gestures in someone's presence can still be considered incest. And yes, incest can happen between people who are not blood relatives. If anything sexual happens between two people or more who are considered family, for example, step-parent and or stepchild, whether adopted legally or not, that can be incest. Well, that's it for today. Jump in the discussion by commenting below. Send me your questions, comments, and suggestions for future episodes on Facebook, tweet using the hashtag AskMargie, or send an email to askmargie@rappler.com. See you next week.